Nice.
It's gonna occur to me like halfway through the rest of this interview, but sorry, go ahead.
But when I was going through, and still am currently going through, like just trying to figure out who I am, what it is I want to be, and what truly makes me happy, I tried telling my friends, we're all close here, we've known each other for a long time. At first, I described myself as being bisexual, and then I feel like, nah, it's not for me. I prefer women way too much more than men, but if they ever given an opportunity. But hey, I believe everybody has like some sort of crush on the same sex. For me, it's Marilyn Manson, Twiggy Ramirez, like a bunch of rock people.
There's your 5.
Oh, I got. And there's someone I'm very close with from my old campus out at UW Richland, right next to Madison. His name is Matoya Higashi. What's up, Matoya? He knows how I feel about him. And who else makes my list here? Oh, what's his name? Sid Vicious? Oh my God, I wish Sid Vicious was still around just to see how things turned out. And everyone gets surprised by this. Iggy Pop. I mean,
you got a thing for the like skinny, androgynous sort of
I know
rib showing rockers.
I know what I like.
Yeah.
I know what I like. But so then I thought, okay, bisexual, not for me or so. Then I thought, maybe I'm just queer. Like, yeah, I'll just keep it queer or so. So when I try to announce to them that I'm queer, it was like opening up a can of crazy negativity. All sorts of jokes was being thrown my way. Apparently, I became the expert at all things gay.
Mm-hmm.
And it just bugged me. Like, I didn't say I was gay. I really do like women or so. And it just kept going on and on. And then for now, currently, I'm what you would call, I'm going to just hopefully coin or make up, like a lazy transitioner. Very lazy. I consider myself, well, I like that phrase, like that idea, I should say phrase, idea, or identity by gender.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started saying, I'm bigendered. Went to a therapist, still saying them, doctor, endocrinologist, still going through with it. Very mild doses I take. Very happy with how things are going, and it makes me happy. So I thought, okay, well, we got over that hump, so I should be able to tell them how I really am or feel now. By the time I even just described that to them, they looked at me like, you're just dead to us. Like, we don't even know. And then, for one of my friends who I consider very close within that group, like, he used to be the friend of mine that would go to concerts with me all the time. We'll go and see stuff, like, anywhere, from Minnesota down to Illinois. Like, that. Nothing. He didn't even have my back or so when shit just started flying around, and it just killed me. Like, all that positive friendship, all that vibes that I had with him, like, just dead. Even for moments where I tried to just, put a face on and go right through it, it was just hard. Like, he just sat there while they just tore me apart. When we went out to dinner to celebrate a friend's birthday, this is the one that this took over for me. Right here in Milwaukee, we went to one of these Indian-themed restaurants or so. And there was also a hookah bar at the same time. I said, okay, sure, I'll join you guys for the hookah. And here I am, about to be ready to start it. Every last person was afraid to touch it. Like I had some sort of disease or something on there.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And thank you. And I just sat there with every person in the whole dining room just looking at me like, what's this person's problem? And I heard someone say right out loud, you probably got full-blown AIDS or something. That's why no one's around them. I'm like, first of all, full-blown AIDS is not a real term. And second, full-blown AIDS? Seriously? Like, oh, it can't just be AIDS. It has to be full-blown with that. But just the fact that my
Maybe you
friends...
just got a cold.
all my friends were just like, yeah, we thought about doing it, and we just didn't want to.
Sorry.
But you guys suggested that we even do it. That was the whole point of what we got together in. So the ride home, which is even more awkward because I was riding in the car with them, it was like everyone was talking about how good the food was and everything around me, like I wasn't part of the conversation. And I just sat there like, I can't believe this is happening. They're just going to keep doing this. So that's when I felt this strong wave of negativity kick in. So I really can connect to how you feel. But just finding like some sort of positive vibe out of that was the hardest thing. And I believe you can relate to it as well. Like, okay, what's done is done. Either I can sit and wallow in it, or I can take some sort of positive memory I had from that, like years before prior, remember the good times. And I'm not saying that I don't talk to them anymore, but I don't talk to them as much. And whenever it is something like, hey, you want to get together, I'm very selective about it, knowing exactly what can happen. And I am pretty much sure they got the message loud and clear. So relating back to with you, with your friends, like, do you try to like remember the good times, or you just try to let that all go?
Both. The problem I encountered was that this particular friend group was all white, cis, het, middle class, upper middle class people who always grew up in privilege. And what I realized much later was that we all went to college together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of these friendships were formed. And what I realized was that everybody remembered me being around in the things that they were doing in college a lot more than I actually was, because I was working,
Mm-hmm.
because I was paying my own way through college.
Fist bump
And
that.
so I didn't have the same foundation to the friendship or assumption of friendship that they all had
Mm-hmm.
with each other. And so it really forced me to re-examine the friendship that I thought I had. And what I realized was that I enjoyed being around that group of people. There were very few people in that group that I actually enjoyed being around. And I do try to still be in touch with them. But it got very tiring being the queer friend.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Especially when you know someone else in the group is like, I'm queer. Well, look at that stuff that you do or say or so.
Yeah.
If anyone is like, yeah.
So it was, it just got to be a lot more work than I wanted to put in. And I was being asked to forgive a lot more than I wanted to. There's a lot of unexamined misogyny and racism, and it was all very sort of low-level background stuff, and I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. So what I realized was that they had done me a favor.
Like here's a get out of here free type pass.
Pretty much. They sort of set me on this path of examining what it is that I was getting out of the relationship. And when they didn't invite me to that first party, I sat down and I wrote a big long message to anyone who was involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I just laid out, look, it's clear there's been some misunderstanding. Here's sort of the ABCs of me. I've always tried to be open and willing to answer questions and everything else, and yet people don't seem to want to talk to me. So I'm just stating right now, I'd like this to be a big, opportunity for everyone to have a conversation, and maybe we can put all this behind us. And it really just turned into, let's examine the ways that Brin makes our lives more difficult. And, I was forcing them to look at things that they didn't want to have to look at. They all consider themselves pretty free-thinking and liberal, and in a lot of ways they are. But a lot of them don't examine the way that white privilege has blinded them to their interactions with the world and to the struggles that other people are having. Or cis privilege, or hetero privilege, and just they all fit into this lovely box of default.
Mm-hmm.
Except for the women, and there's a different axis of oppression there, but the women seem to be satisfied with the interactions that are happening, so it's not really my space to speak for them.
Mm-hmm.
At any rate, there's a lot they just weren't looking at, and I lost my thread. Sorry. I just after that letter that I wrote, and it devolved into this terrible conversation, It made further interaction with them more difficult. It made every time I accepted an invitation, my presentation became a political choice, and it was just more brain space than I wanted to devote to that. Especially when I have friends who, I have friends that I met post transition or post being out. And they are completely accepting, and they see me for who I am, and I don't have to fight against 20-year-old preconceptions, and
Yeah, that's great.
I don't have to try to maintain the face or take into account the face that I presented before I came out in order to hide the fact that I wasn't coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that those friends were asking me to hold on to that face and hold on to that person that they wanted me to be. So it was very difficult for me. It was very painful to go through all of this, and it was very rough to look at all of this past, this history that we had in this new light of, well, everything was fine as long as I appeared to fit into this box that they had put me in, and realized that the friendship wasn't the same as what I had thought it was. That was a very painful experience. What it did make me do, though, is look at all of the friendships that I do have where I don't have that. I have a lot of friendships from high school, who have taken my coming out in stride, and they've changed names and pronouns they use, and I always feel very affirmed, and I realize that I get to have that, and I can choose not to have this painful part. Like, they're all good people. None of that has changed. They're still the people that I thought they were. I just had to I have new knowledge to examine, who those people are, and I've gotten the ability to make the decision that I don't have to have toxic people in my life just to have a certain number of people in my life.
I like that. You don't have to have toxic people in your life in order to just be. I like that right there. Because one thing I have found is that for the way how we try to strive for our own personal happiness, we just sometimes let things stay there that's not good for us. Like for myself right now, I live in a toxic environment. I live with my folks. I used to say, oh, this is going to be here for a minute. And then it turned into, oh, my mother really needs help around here. And now that we have another elder moving into the house, it's like, if I leave, I'll be seen as the biggest a-hole. And despite all that, I just want to keep doing the right thing, the positive thing to help out, despite the fact that I live in a toxic environment where everyone's so dead stuck in their ways. It's hard to talk to anyone. Like, just recently, my mother had one of her little mood swings. I keep trying to say, blame it on the menopause, blame it on the menopause. It's not really her talking, but it's starting to feel like it really is more of her talking. We just had a nice little argument before heading off to work about, what are you doing to yourself? You think you're going to find any woman that wants to be with someone that's half this and half that? You can't be this and that. You have to be one or the other, and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, let me do me and you do you. How about that? Let's stick to that phrase. Let me do me and you do you. How can you do you and yada, yada, yada? And I learned something from therapy and other friends as well. It's like, in order to get rid of your mother in an argument, just say, oh, stop it. That throws them dead off. Like, they like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And I just kept throwing that right back at her. But I felt a lot more positive, happier, just like not giving in to her. Don't give her the satisfaction. Just let her get it out of her system, because I know she'll revert back to being this quiet person that needs you, whether she wants to say it out loud or not. But the toxic environments, I mean, that's a real positive drainer right there. You're just like constantly saying nothing but negative. Even at my day job, I work at the Mitchell Airport with United Airlines. And working at the airport, it is what it is. It should be its own sitcom at this point, because we all like, oh God, these planes coming in late, these bad customers, yada, yada, yada. But we somehow manage to see the fun in all this when it's done. So it's kind of like a weird thing. Like, you bring in all this negativity, you let it get released through your work, and then you just walk out laughing like, oh god, I can't believe that customer did this or that happened, which is, for me, really like it's a form of working therapy, like positive therapy. Yeah. So I always look forward to going into work, even if I am stuck at a 3:45 in the morning shift.
Oh, that's brutal.
But it's brutal. But at the same time, the people that are there in the morning, they are so la-di-da-di, like, I'll be out of here way sooner than they think. This is going to be a great day. I got the rest of the day myself. I'm like, I like that. You don't hate the fact that you're here, but you look forward to, I'm done. I'm free to do whatever I want. I like that type of thinking.
Well, for the record, you met my girlfriend, so it is absolutely possible to find a woman who will love your body the way that it is.
Oh, I know it is. In fact, I'm working... I shouldn't say like that.
Remember, there's cameras.
Yes. Trying to straighten it up for her. There's someone that I am I fancy her a lot. I try to use that phrase because no one ever says the word fancy. And I actually did something so out there in our first date get together. We were in Illinois, and I went to go see Against Me. I saw them first in Milwaukee. Freaking fantastic show. Second time was in Illinois. I was thinking, oh, Rock Island, that can't be that far from Chicago.